Iraq known as Kurdistan. We'll hear from Masoud Barzani, who's the president of the Kurdistan Regional Government. This is live coverage on C-SPAN 2.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you all for coming. We're delighted to have you here. This is a rare privilege. You know, normally important things don't happen on Fridays in Washington. You know, but today we have important things happening in Washington. We're delighted to welcome Masoud Barzani here today. This is he's an iconic figure. Before I say a word of introduction, let me just welcome Deputy Prime Minister Barham Saleh. We're delighted to have him here today, and obviously you're lifting the quality of the audience today. Thank you for coming. Dr. Brzezinski, thank you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Paul Wolfowitz, thanks for coming, Paul. Delighted to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very pleased to welcome Masoud Barzani today. He is, this is the kind of figure around which novels are written. Of course, he is the president of the Kurdistan region in Iraq, and was born on the same day that the Kurdish Democratic Party was founded, and so he, there's a unique constellation of his personal history and the development of the Kurdish region in Iraq. He's lived through the tragedies. You know, his family was separated. He suffered a great deal of personal tragedy in his own life. The oppression that existed in Iraq, the violence. He's had to personally set aside his own professional development in order to become a warrior on behalf of Kurdistan. And he carried the banner for Kurds throughout a very long and difficult period. And he now comes as the senior statesman for the Kurds in Iraq. And it's a time when I was saying to him in our brief meeting beforehand, we now need to be listening to people in this region because we're going through a pretty big change in this country. We're going to have an election here on Tuesday. I don't know how it's going to come out, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to have a lot of pressure for changing our posture, and we need to know we're doing the right thing. And I think that's part of the reason it's important to have you here, President. So thank you for coming. This strong, powerful figure is chosen to spend a little bit of time with us today. We're delighted to have him here. I have many friends here today. I should recognize them. Mike Wynn, thank you for coming. Rudy DeLeon, thank you for being here. Jay Garner, you know, it's great to see you again. He doesn't ever want to come back to Washington. He told me he doesn't ever want to be back here. But it took Masoud Barzani to bring him back from his grandchildren down in Florida. So it's great to have you all here. Thank you for coming. And let me turn to you. Well, Ray, do you want to say any further word of introduction?
Yeah, I think that,
let me say Ray DuBois is going to be leading the question and answer period. And please ask questions, don't give speeches. You know, that's one thing we want to hear the President. So, Mr. President, we're delighted to have you here. Thank you for coming. We look forward to your remarks. Thank you for coming. You can sit either place you like.
زور سپاسی برای همری اکیم سروکی CSIS والو زور سپاس و پیزانین بو برایستان بو آماده بونتان و رخصتنی ام در فتا بو اما.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Hamri. the chairman of the CSIS. Thank you all for coming. I'm pleased and privileged to have this opportunity to talk to you.
هاتنی ما بو واشتن زانم لکاتێکی زۆر حساسە بەنسبەتی ئێوە ملەتی ئەمریکا و هەروەها بۆ هەموو جیهان چونکە چەند ڕۆژێکی ترە و هەڵبژاردنی سەرۆکی تازە ئەمریکا دەست پێ دەکات.
So our visit to Washington comes at a very critical and sensitive time, a time which is critical to the people of the United States, but also to us and to the whole world. In a few days' time, we will be seeing the presidential election, which has a great impact on everything.
هاتنی ما بو ئەوەیە بەڕاستی ئێمە سوپاسی ملەتی ئەمریکا سوپاسی سوپای ئەمریکا بکەین و سوپاسی سەرۆکی ئەمریکا بکەین بۆ ئەو یارمەتیەی کە دایان ئێمە ڕزگار ببین لە ڕژێمی دیکتاتۆری.
Our visit was to come to the United States to express our thanks and appreciation to the people of the United States, to the United States military and the President of the United States for the assistance and support that they have provided to liberate our people from dictatorship.
و هەمیشە ئێمە بە ڕێزێکی زۆرەوە یادی ئەو قوربانیانەکەین کە داوتانە سوپای ئێوە کوڕ و کچی ئێوە داویانە لە پێناوی ڕزگاری گەلەکەمان.
And we've always appreciated and we express our condolences for the sacrifices of men and women in uniform, for the sacrificing their lives for the sake of the liberation of our people in Iraq.
و من دەمەوێت لەم دەرفەتە وەربگرم بۆ ئەوەی بوچوونەکانی خۆمانتان بوو دیاری بکەین لەسەر وەزعی عێراق بەگشتی وەزعی ناوچەکە و ڕۆڵی کورد و هەروە ئیتفاقیەی کە هەموومان چاوەڕوانی.
I would like to take this opportunity to express the views of Kurdistan region on the situation in Iraq, in the region, the role played by the Kurds, and also the SOFA agreement.
دەرفەتێکی زۆر گەورە بوو گەلی عێراق هاتە پێش بۆ ئەوەی عێراقێکی تازە عێراقی فدرالی دیموکرات دابمەزرێنن و عملیەکی سیاسی دەستی پێ کرد هەرچەندە هێشتا تەحەدیاتێکی زۆر ماوە لە پێش بەڵام عێراق ئێستا خاوەن دستورێکی زۆر پێشکەوتووە هەڵبژاردن دەستی پێ کرد و لە ساڵی داهاتوو هەڵبژاردنی تر دەست پێ دەکات وەزعی ئەمنی زۆر باشتر بووە بەڵام دیسان جارێکتر ئەڵێم هێشتا تەحەدیاتێکی زۆریش ماوە.
So a great opportunity has come to the people of Iraq in order to have the opportunity to build a new Iraq, an Iraq that's federal and democratic, and also a political process has started in Iraq. Still, there are a lot of challenges ahead of us, but Iraq today enjoys an advanced constitution. We have had elections in Iraq, and next year we will see another election. There has been improvement in the security situation, but at the same time, there are also challenges ahead.
ڕۆڵی کورد لەم عملیە زۆر دیار و ئاشکرایە ئێمە بەشداریمان کرد لە ڕزگارکردنی عێراق و خوێنماندا لە پێناوی جێبەجێکردنی ئەو ئامانجە.
The role played by the Kurds is very obvious. We have participated in the liberation of Iraq. We also shed blood side by side with the Americans for that sake.
و ئێستا ئێمە شەریکین لە حکوومەتی فدرالی بەغدا.
Now we are partners in the federal government in Baghdad.
و ئێمە بەردەوامە بین لە سەر بینینی ڕۆڵی ئیجابی خۆمان بۆ چەسپاندنی عێراقی فدرالی دیموکرات.
And we will continue to play our positive role in bringing about a federal, democratic and pluralistic Iraq.
هەرچەندە شتێکی زۆر تەبیعیە جاربەجار ممکنە خلافاتیش ڕوو بدات بۆ چوونی جیاوازمان هەبی لەسەر تەفسیری هەندێک بنودی دەستور بەڵام ئێمە سوورین لەسەر ئەوەی کە هەموو ئەو گرفتانە بە شێوەیەکی ئاشتیانە چارەسەر بکەین و دستور حەکەم بی بۆ چارەسەری هەر گرفتێکی کە بێتە پێش.
And I would also like to say it's very normal in such a circumstances to have disputes or different point of view and different interpretations to articles and items of the Constitution, but I would like to assure you that we're determined in order to try our best to settle all the scores and to solve all the problems through dialogue and peaceful means and to have the Constitution to be the judge and the referee to go back to.
ئێمە لە هەرێمی کوردستان مەشغوڵی ئەوەین کە مؤسساتی دستوری دابمەزرێنین.
We in the Kurdistan region focus our efforts in building constitutional institutions.
هەرچەندە ئینسان ناتوانیم ڕۆ لە هیچ کوێیەکی دنیا بڵێ ئەمنی مطلق هەیە بەڵام لە کوردستان توانیمانە بەهۆی یارمەتی میلەتی خۆمان و دەستگاکانی ئەمنی خۆمان کە ئەمن و ئاسایش بۆ هەرێمی کوردستان بە شێوەیەکی زۆر بەرچاو دابین بکەین.
Although nowhere in the world one can say that there is absolute security, but we have been able in Kurdistan region of Iraq with the assistance and support of our people and also the hard work of our security authorities to be able to provide a safe and secure environment for the people in that region.
و زور یارمتی اما داوا که اما من آسایش برقرار بی حقیقت او فرهنگی که ملتی اما پی پرورده کراوه.
And what has helped us in order to maintain that safety and security is the culture that our people have grown up with, culture of tolerance.
اما بدرجایی میجو فری فرهنگی تسامح بوین ملتی اما چونکه چه تسامحی نتوی چه تسامحی دینی چه مذهبی اما بدرجایی میجو لکردستان هبوه.
Throughout history, we've brought up with the culture of tolerance and with the history of tolerance. National, ethnic, religious, and sectarian tolerance has been with us all the way through history.
استش اما نوی کردستان براستی نمونه بیارشند من ادعانا کم که اما بی کموکوری من هیا بلام اراده و من هیا که او کموکوریان نهیدین و کردستان بو همو منوی بو کردو عربو ترکمانو کلدانو آشوریو همو او برایانه ترکه لکردستان اجین.
Now we would like to say that we want Kurdistan to be a model for the new Iraq. Although I don't claim that we don't have problems or we don't have flaws in the Kurdistan region, but there is a strong political will in order to cope up with the situation and find solutions and to make Kurdistan for all the people of Kurdistan region to be for Kurds, Arabs, Turkmen, Assyrian, and Chaldean, and all the residents of that region.
آینده عراقیش باید دابین دکره باید تضمین دکره که التزام به دستور بکره شراکتی که جدی و فعلی ببی لحکم.
And the future of Iraq would be guaranteed in a way that all the parties would stay committed to the constitution and to have a real and serious partnership in governance system in Iraq. And we will try our best in order to make sure that this program succeeds in Iraq.
اما سورین لسراوی که تا سرکوتنی نهایی ابی نهیلین جاری کتر تروریستکان لعراق بتوانن جی پی خوان کنن.
And we have to stay committed and determined until we achieve final success. We will not allow the terrorists to find a foothold in Iraq.
نسبت پیوندی عراق و حریم کردستان لگل دروسیکان من.
Regarding the relationship between Iraq and Kurdistan region and the neighboring countries,
اما پیمان خوشه که باشترین پیوندی من هبی لگل دروسیکان من.
We would like to enjoy the best relations with our neighbors.
و پیم ویا مجالی که یک جار زور لپیش بو او پیوندیانه.
I believe that there is a good opportunity in order to enjoy such relations.
و بخوشحالی و عظیم که لماوی اخیر دا رودانی که زور ایجابی بسر هلوستی ترکیه دهاتوا.
I'm pleased to say that recently there has been a very positive development in the position and attitude of Turkey.
کوبونوی مباشر بو لنیوان من که اما امیدوارین ان شاء الله او کوبونوانا بردوام بنو بگین انجامی باش که لبرجواندی هر دولادا.
And a number of good and direct meetings have happened between the two sides, and we hope that such kind of meetings and dialogue will continue, and we hope that we will be able to achieve positive results that will be in the interest of both sides.
بالنسبة اتفاقي سوفا كاستاذ تقريبا بابتي محورية.
Regarding the state of forces agreement, which is the main subject being discussed today.
قد اما حزناكين ويك روجيش سربازاني ايوا او زحمتا بكشنو دور بكونوا لا كسوكار ولاتكيان هر چي زوتر بتوانن بگرينوا اما او من بخوش.
Although we do not want for your sons and daughters, men and women in the army to stay away from their loved ones and their family and their country, and we wish one day sooner that they would come back to enjoy their lives here. But the process has started which has not finished yet.
وضع العراق انهيار كاد بيمان ويا تأثير لوضع اقتصادي كاد للجهان تأثير أو انهيار رنجة براب سيني بو دول خليج وبو منطقة.
If the situation in Iraq breaks down or collapses, that will have a huge impact, negative impact on the economic situation. It may develop to have impact on the entire Gulf region.
اما بيمان ويا أو اتفاقية أو جدول زمني شيء تدايا أو برنامج تدايا كبشوي كريكو بيك هم هذا كان أمريكاش باشك شب كانوا بين وبولات خوتان هم ووضع عراقيش بشوي كي وار ريك بخريتوا ك جاری کتر نبیتوا ملگای تروریستان یا خود کویت از جر نفوذی امو اویتر.
We believe that the current agreement that's being worked upon includes a timetable, a schedule for the withdrawal of the troops, working by such a kind of a program that would organize the way the troops to be withdrawn back, and also for the situation in Iraq to be under control, and so that once again Iraq will not become a foothold or a safe haven for the terrorists, or Iraq to be under the influence of this or that. We believe that this agreement is better than any other alternative available.
من جاری کتر دموید تأکید کم لسر رول کرد و حریم کردستان.
Once again, I would like to reiterate and stress on the role of Kurds and the Kurdistan region.
اما سورین لسر اوی که اما بردوام بین لسر رول خومان لبغداد.
We're determined to continue to play our positive role in Baghdad.
اما ملتزمین با دستوری که سطح 85 ملت عراق دنگی بوده.
We're committed to the constitution that 85% of the Iraqi people voted for it.
نوچکانی که خلافی لسر وکو کرکوک و نوچکانی تر به پی ماده 140 دستوری عراقی ابی چاره سر بکری بووی همو ملت عراق لو ما ترسیر نجاتی ببی.
And for the other areas or the disputed territories, there is an article 140 of the Constitution that has stipulated a roadmap in order to find a peaceful and lasting solution so that all of the people of Iraq would enjoy stability and security.
جاری کتر زور زور سپاسانه کم بو آمده بونتان و بو ام در فتای بویمتان رخصاند.
Once again, I would like to thank the CSIS and all of you for coming and providing us with this opportunity to talk to you.
و دوای بختوری و سرکوتن بو ملت امریکا.
And I wish success and progress to the people of the United States. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you will forgive me in my humble Kurdish, Zor Supas Janabi Saruk Barzani. As John Hamry said, having the President of the Kurdistan Regional Government with us today is quite an honor. We want to give as much time to questions from the audience, so I would ask that when you are recognized, please stand and identify yourself and your affiliation with whatever organization you represent. Needless to say, we would appreciate concise questions for the President, and I would ask for myself and for the various audience members here that you refrain from expressions necessarily of personal political opinions. Now, a number of the issues raised by President Barzani, I'm sure are of interest to many of you, not the least of which, of course, is the Status of Forces Agreement negotiations, the issues with respect to Turkey, the issues with respect to the oil law, the situation surrounding refugees, if you will, from the Nineveh Valley and Mosul that are now streaming into Kurdistan and for protection. Also Article 140 that the President referred to. I will take the prerogative of the chair, if you will, and ask the first question. It was reported, Mr. President, that the special foreign policy advisor to the Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan was also here coincidentally in Washington during this trip. I know that you have also said that you're prepared to meet with your Turkish counterparts. Did you have any opportunity to meet with that gentleman during this trip?
نخير ليلة نم ديوا فلما لا بغداد ولا أولاد ديوما و نشم زوني وليلة يا برنامج كواك لوي ولا تركيا ولا العراق لا كردستان يكتر ببين فلما ليلة بهم خوشة فلما لا برنامج دانا بوا.
No, indeed, I have not met him here, but we have met in Baghdad and we have met in Erbil, and the program was agreed that we will meet in Turkey and Iraq and Kurdistan region. I would have loved to meet with him. I didn't know about that, but this was the program here.
Thank you. All right, we should take some questions. Yes, sir, right here. Please, the microphone will be delivered to you promptly.
This is Ümit Enginsoy with Turkish NTV Television. Mr. President, Do you and the KRG view the PKK as a terrorist group?
جناب سروک ایمو حکومت ریم کردستان تثبیت گروپی ارهابی دادن پاکستان.
امام بابته لقال دولت ترکیا باس من کرد و باسی اکین حزنا کم من لعلام هیچ جاری کتر باسی ها موضوع کم حتی لقال دولت ترکیا اگین النتیجه.
Indeed, we have discussed this issue with the state of Turkey, and we will refrain from talking about this subject in the media until we reach an agreement and a solution on this subject with the government of Turkey.
Another question back here.
Balan Salah, Kurdish Service, Voice
Can you,
of America.
is that microphone on?
Yeah, sorry. Balan Salah, Kurdish Service, Voice of America. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask my question in Kurdish. جنابی سەرۆک ئەگەر هات و ڕێکوتنی سۆفا لە نێوان بەغدا و واشنگتن مۆر نەکرا پێت وایە شیانێک هەبێت کە وڵاتە یەکگرتوەکانی ئەمریکا بنکەی سەربازی خۆی لە هەرێمی کوردستانی عێراقدا بکاتەوە ئەگەر ئەو شیانە هەبێ خواستی ئەمریکاییەکان چەندە بۆی سپاس.
Why don't you repeat the question?
Yeah, a question from the Kurdish Service of Voice of America addressed to President Barzani regarding the status of forces agreement between the United States and Iraq. If that agreement was not signed between Washington and Baghdad, is there any possibility for American forces to be based in Kurdistan region of Iraq? And what would be the request of the United States, or how would you see that?
استزیاتر ترکیز لسر و دکری که اتفاقه که ببی. بلام دوی و اگر اتفاقه که نبی چه دبی حقیقتش دوا باس نکره و بلام اگر اتفاقه که نبو امریکا دواب که هزکانیان لحریم کردستان بمینن من پیم وای پارلمانی کردستان ملتی کردستان حکومتی حریم همو با خوشحالیه و ترحیبی بیایی.
So far the focus is on the agreement in order to be signed. We will try our best for that agreement to be signed. This issue has not been raised or discussed yet, but if there was no agreement or no agreement was signed, and if we did not reach an agreement, and if the United States requests for its forces to be based in Kurdistan region, I'm confident that the Kurdistan Regional Parliament, the people of Kurdistan region, and the Kurdistan Regional Government would welcome that.
All right. Yes, in the back there.
Charlie Wolfson with CBS News. Also on the status of forces agreement, can you speak to the amendments which the Iraqi government is now considering? Can you be as specific as possible? And can you also tell us whether you think in the end there will be a successful status of forces agreement signed?
بسیاری سی بی اس سبب به تعدیلات هموار کردنانی که حکومت عراقی دعوی کرد و برسان دفعان پیمان بلند با کردی با تحدید سیبا و تعدیلات که دعوی کرد و هزدکن که لنهایت دقیقا اتفاق سلامت
آخر کبونوی مجلس امنی سیاسی من بجدار بوم روزی 19 مانگه لبغداد آخر صیغه که هاتبو او مناقشه کرا باسی تعدیلات و نبو او قد منیش بیستومه که انده تعدیلات پیشنیار کرا بلام خوشمش آگاه داریم که او تعدیلاتانه چین.
In the last meeting that we had at the Political Council of National Security in Baghdad, which was on the 19th of October, the final version of the draft was submitted to the Political Council, and at that time there was no mention of any amendments. I realized that after I was traveling to the United States, some amendments were proposed, but I'm not aware of these details.
بلام او صیغه که مجلس امنی سیاسی مناقشه کرا موقفی واضح بود که ما پیمان وابو ام صیغه باشه و دکری اتفاقی لسر بکری.
But the version that was submitted or put at the table at the Political Council of National Security, our position was very clear regarding that it was a good one and there's room for reaching an agreement on that.
As a follow-up, I read, I believe, this morning that in your meeting with the Washington Post, the editorial board, you indicated that you did not think that the SOFA, as currently structured, would pass the Iraqi parliament.
خوی تحقیقات زوره محاولات زور هيا كنبي استاج من عليهم من شكم هيا والله لعيني وقت إجدا احتمال يواش هيا كدرباز ببي يعني دو توجه هيا اما لو توجهين كببي باشتر.
There are a lot of complications and there are a lot of efforts in order not to have that SOFA agreement signed. And I still reiterate that I have doubts, or I'm doubtful for the SOFA to be signed, but there's also a possibility for the SOFA to pass and to be signed. There are two approaches or two thoughts. One is in favor, one is against. But our position is very clear. We are in favor of this agreement.
بدایل یا تمدید یا موضعی استایا یا نه اتفاق او نه تمدید مصیری که مجهوله لبره و پیمان و اتفاقی که جدول زمانش تا 2011 نهایت 2011 که هموش تک توابی لبره و اتفاقی که وینه کی رون و آشکارا ادب در برچاود که وضع عراق چون ابی و براکویاچی بوی ما پیمان و اتفاقی که ولی برجماندی عراق دار.
Because the alternatives for this either would be the extension of the current status quo, or not to have agreement, or not to have extension, which will lead to an unknown destiny for Iraq. We believe in the agreement. There is a lot of detail talking about the timetable for the withdrawal of the forces by the end of 2011. At least the agreement gives you a clear picture in the horizon about what kind of Iraq or what will happen in Iraq in the coming period. Therefore, we are in favor of it.
Very well. Young lady back there in the corner.
Thank you. Mr. Barzani, this is Tudin Dadolu with the Washington Times. As you are wrapping up your visit in Washington, what is your understanding of the U.S. position on issues related to Article 140 of the Iraqi Constitution? Thank you.
Perhaps it would be a good idea also to put some annotation around for the audience to know what Article 140 refers to.
Yeah. Article 140 is an article in the Iraqi constitution that has stipulated a roadmap to solve the problem of the disputed territories that start from Sinjar, Sheikhan, Accra, Mahmud, Kirkuk, Khanaqin. So all these areas, there was a line of 19th of March 2003 where the Iraqi forces were there since 1991. So with the liberation of Iraq, there was an article in the constitution that said that these areas should be settled according to the constitution.
هلوستی رسمی امریکا لان تبیجی وزارتی داره و هر چوپی که ونانه که کردو منه وان تأکید کن که آوان لگال جبهه کردنی ماده 140 چون که ماده کی دستوریه و خلق عراق دنگی لسر دا.
The official position of the United States government, as expressed by the official spokesman of the State Department and also in the meetings that we had, all stress on the implementation of the Article 140 because this is a constitutional article, a constitutional commitment, and also the people of Iraq have voted for that constitution.
Very good. Yes, Steve.
Yes, I'm Stephen Flanagan from CSIS. President Barzani, could you describe for us your assessment of the relationship that exists now between the Kurdish security forces and the Iraqi National Army, and how you see that evolving over the period as we move towards a transition of the U.S. presence in Iraq?
وصفك عن بدي تقييمك وعلاقي ديوان قوات أمن كردستان وهرباق الجيش الوطني العراقي بتابتك كاتك من المرحلة قرن كاري سبع بيزا كان أمريكا
معلومات جنابتان دوای روخانی رژیمی صدام ل 2003 که دست کرد و بعد درست کردنوی جیش عراقی یکم سه لیوای که جیش عراقی ل درست کرد ل پیشمرگ درست کرد.
For your kind information, after the fall of the regime in 2003, the efforts in order to rebuild the new Iraqi army, it comprised of 3 brigades which were made of the Peshmerga forces. Because at that time, neither the Shias nor the Sunnis were ready and willing to join the Iraqi army.
باش زور لوحدات الجيش العراقي لكرد بيكوت ولا بيشمركة.
And now many of the units of the Iraqi army are comprised of Kurds or Peshmerga forces, older Peshmerga forces.
وإما جيش عراقي بجيش خماني أزمان.
And we consider the Iraqi army as our own army.
بلام أبي ولا بغداد استمكي وهبي كجيش تكلاوي مشاكل نوخو نكري جاري كتر العراق.
But there has to be a kind of system set in Baghdad so that once again the army would not get involved or engaged in internal political matters of the country like the past. And for the army to be an army for all of Iraq, not an army for one political party or one individual.
حالتی درست کردن دایا براستی.
It's in the making process, of course.
هنده ممکنه هنده جار هنده بوچونی جواز هبی بینی اما و حکومتی فدرال.
Probably sometimes there are different opinions or positions between us and the federal government.
بلام اما بلس لبر روشنایی دستورکه مسئله جیشیش اما کمیتک من بوداناوه که بتواتی او موضوعنا همو چاره سر کن لخلال ام دومان گیده هاتو.
But in the shadow of the Constitution, in accordance with the constitutional rights, we have set a committee in order to look into the matters regarding or relevant to the army so that in the coming couple of months that issue would be addressed.
Yes, Joe.
President Joe Reeder.
Wait for the mic so that media can pick it up too.
Don't have a command voice that everyone can hear.
We could hear you in Grand Central Station.
Joe Reeder. Mr. President, questions about Hanakin. What happened there and what has been done to hopefully prevent that from happening again? Thank you.
لا خانقين طبعا بين منطقة خانقين كإداريا عقيدي محافظة ديالايا لمحافظة ديالا بقشتي تروریستکان ماويك اوان دا صلاة تولانه و بسر بشي هر زوري محافظة ديالا.
Khanaqin administratively is part of Diyala province, and generally speaking, the terrorists have almost full control over that area for quite some time.
ولا سر دواي حكومتي فدرال اما لواكي لشكر من نارد بو اويب دواي 18 شهيد و 43 بريندار توانيان كناوچاي كي زور بارك كنا ولا تيروريستك.
At the request of the federal government, we have sent a brigade of our Peshmerga forces, force that went there in order to handle the situation, and as a result has given 18 martyrs, 18 Peshmerga were killed and 43 were injured, but they were able to control the situation and achieve security.
دواي وكناوچاكا باكرا ولا تيروريستان وحدات تري جيش عراقي دوايان كير اوان بينو اما قوات بيشمركه سحب كين.
After the Peshmerga forces cleaned up that area, the other units of the Iraqi army have requested for the Peshmerga forces to withdraw and for them to come and replace them.
لكاتي ك بيشمركه خليك انسحاب بون نتيجة غلطي قاعدة كي هي عسكري عراقي مشكلة رويدة.
At the time that the Peshmergas were preparing to withdraw, as a result of a mistake from an Iraqi army commander, a problem has emerged.
طبعا جيش مرحلة كي ما ترسيدار بلام كنترول كرا ومدوارين كجاري كتر اشتوار ونداتوا.
It reached a status which was fearful or dangerous, but it was good that we were able to handle it, and we hope that it will not recur again.
Thank you. Jay? It's right behind you.
Thank you. Jay Garner. Mr. President, I know in your area, the Kurdish regional government, the Christians have total freedom. They have their own churches. And in your constitution, you have strong minority rights. But down in Nineveh province, I know right now there's a lot of persecution of the Christians, and they are moving into Kurdistan. Could you comment on what's going on in Nineveh and what the KRG is doing to accommodate the Christians that are moving there?
والتروریستکان لبصره لبغداد لزور شو هنده جار ترکیزیان کرده سر مسیحیکان.
The tourists in Basra, Baghdad, and other places, they focus their attention on the Christians.
ولم فتره اخیر ترکیزی که خاص کرده سر مسیحیکانی موصل.
And recently, very recently, a lot of focus were put on the Christians who are living in Mosul province.
همیشه اما با برای مسیحی من گفتوه که کردستان کراویه و خود خلق خوجه هیا که لکردستان اجین بلاموانی لشارکانیش اگر توشی مترسی بون بین بو کردستان فعلا بشی زوری هاتون و معزز مکرم لکردستان نک اوان مسیحی کان 25,000 عائله عربیش کران کردو لناوچکانی که لترسی ارهاب و است لشارکانی کردستان.
We've always assured our Christian brothers that Kurdistan is always open to them, because we have Christians who are living in Kurdistan region, but I'm talking about those who are outside the KRG. Whenever they fear their lives, they're welcome to come, and they have come to Kurdistan. They are respected and with full dignity. Not only the Christian family, but we have also 25,000 Arab families who have escaped and fled from the violence and have found refuge and safe haven in Kurdistan.
وبو معلومات جنابت تا استا ل 2003 تا امرو زیاتر ل 2000 کرد ل خود نوشاری موصل کجراون تنها لبر هویه که کردن نکر مسیحی به تنها و بسر کردی شاتوا و زیاتر ل 100,000 کرد آواره بون موصلیان به جهشتوا.
For your kind information, since 2003 until now, over 2,000 Kurds have been killed inside Mosul because of identity, because of their Kurdish identity. So it's not only Christians who have been killed, but also Kurds have been killed, and over 100,000 Kurds have been displaced from Mosul.
Thank you. Dr. Wolfowitz.
Paul Wolfowitz, AEI. I wondered if you could give your estimate of the current strength of the insurgency, not just in Kurdistan or even mainly in Kurdistan, but in the rest of Iraq. And what do you think are the chances of it regaining strength in the coming year or two?
خوشبختانه لکردستان تروریستان نیانتوانی به هیچ شیوه قاعده درست کن لکردستان.
Fortunately, the terrorists were not able and they could not establish any base in our region.
هنده جار توانیان تسلل کن لموصل و زیاتر.
Sometimes they were able to have an infiltration and mainly from Mosul to come to our region.
بشی زوری ارهاب لنوچه‌ای که معین بون.
And the majority of the terrorists were in a specific area.
And
the areas of Anbar, Baghdad and Baghdaw, which is, and Mosul, which is in the middle, and also Mosul to the northwest.
بلام استا که تماشای بکن براستی زور زور شکستیان خوردو زور لواز بون انبار خلکی انبار لی هستانو.
But if we look
نوچه خوان پاک کرده ولی تروریستان ل بغداد دیسان یارمتی خلق و هیزکانی امنیکان با هاوکاری سپای امریکا دیسا ضربه زور گوریان خورد لموصل هشتا توزه که ویان ماوه طبعا وانیا بن بربو بن هشتا ماون بلام زور لواز بون اما همیشه لم ظروف دا اگر زیادتر وضع که نچسبه همیشه و احتماله هیا که جاری کتر زندو ببنو.
But if we look at the situation right now, they've been defeated, they have been weakened, and areas have been cleaned from the terrorists, and especially in Anbar when people rose against them and fought them. In Baghdad, with the assistance that people have provided with the Iraqi security forces and the support that was given by the American forces, they were able to give a heavy blow to the terrorists. But in Mosul, still the terrorists are there. They have not been uprooted, they have been weakened, but under the circumstance that we have, if we would not continue on the successes that we have achieved, there is always the possibility of them regaining strength.
Young lady against the wall.
Thanks. It's Elizabeth Rosenberg with Argus Media. Mr. President, can you give us a status update on the communications or negotiations between the KRG and the federal government in Baghdad about exporting oil from the KRG and also Baghdad's recognition of the contracts awarded by the KRG to several oil companies?
دستور عراقی زور واضحه. قضیه او حقوقی که پیشتر درهن راون حکومت فدرال اداره دکات لگل حکومت هرم یا ای اقالیم. اوانه تازه در دهن رن حکومت هرم اداره دکات لگل حکومت فدرال. مسوده کی قانونی نوت حاضر کرابو لشباط 2007 که بچی بو مجلس وزراء ولوی و بچی بو پارلمان و ملحقه کشی پی بو اگر لگل بو اگر تا مانگی می 2007 اتفاقه که نروشت هر دو لا حقیانه كعقود امضا بكن اتفاقه كان رويشت لبروا ببي او اتفاقه وببي او ملحقه ما حق منها تش دستوريا تش ببي ملحقي او اتفاق مسوده اتفاقيه كهبو آخر شد اتفاق كرا لكوبونوي بنوراستي امان جل بغداد ككوميتاي كي زور بقوات دابن ربو او نهايات بمساله قانوني نوت بينهم چونکه تقریبا هیچ شتێک نەماوە تەنها بڕیاری سیاسی دەبێت بڕیاری سیاسی شەبێ قیادەی سیاسی بیدات و کۆمیتەکە لە قیاداتی سیاسی پێکهاتوو اینجا بە پێی دەستور ئێمە متفقین و هیچ لاڕێمان نیە لەوە نەوت و غاز ملکی هەموو ملەتی عێراقە وارداتەکەی تەوزیعەبی بەسەر هەموو خەڵکی عێراقدا ئەمە ئێمە هیچ مانعێکمان نیە لەوە.
In fact, the Constitution is very clear in talking about the oil issue. It talks about the existing oil fields that will be managed by the federal government together with the regional governments. And for the new oil fields, they will be managed by the Kurdistan regional government. But at the same time, it talks about the revenue sharing, that the revenues should be shared by both. And in addition to that, there was a draft oil law that was prepared in February 2007 and was supposed to go to the cabinet, Iraqi Cabinet Council of Ministers, and from there to go to the Iraqi Council of Representatives. It has with it a side letter. The side letter was stating that if there would be no agreement on the oil law until May 2007, then both sides would have right to sign contracts. Of course, the agreement was not reached, therefore, based on that draft law and the side letter, which was an annex to the draft, as well as the Constitution and what the Constitution says, we have continued to deal with this. But in the last meeting that we have in mid of October in Baghdad, at the Political Council of the National Security, we have agreed that we will form a strong committee, a committee that would be comprised of the political leadership in Iraq in order to deal with it. Because right now the issue needs a political decision, and the political decision has to be made by the Iraqi political leaders. And according to the Constitution, we agreed that there would be sharing, and also that oil and gas in Iraq belongs to all the Iraqi people in all regions and governorates. Therefore, we do not have any problem in sharing the revenues and also working hard to reach an agreement on the hydrocarbon law.
Yes, ma'am, right here.
Ahu Özür from CNN Turk and Milliyet. Thank you, Mr. President. I have two quick questions. One is a follow-up on the PKK issue. When do you think you might give us, to the press, an insight of how your talks are going and what agreement you may reach with Turkish government? And the second one is about your trip to Tehran, if I'm not mistaken. Could you give us an insight about your visit to Iran?
CNN Turk and Milliyet. برسيارة كان وقت تعقيب لسر برسيارة كي بريستان دتوالن بوس حفق سب كان لسر ويكوت محادثة كان تنشون در ولا كان حكومة تركيا وأجريت اتفاقية بجاني لسر مسألة هكذا الدول مشان سدان تنتظر بوترا نقول خلنا بوترا سدان كان تعقد فيش تكون بيلون سروا.
الوقت باسم كده ما گفتگومان بردوام لقل حكومة تركيا كوقتي هاد باز بکری او وقتی ما باسی کی.
As I mentioned earlier, that our talks with and dialogue with the government of Turkey is continuing, and when the right time comes, we will disclose everything with the press.
چونی من بو ایران طبعا ایران ولاتی که جیرانی ایمه و پیویز بو آوان گویان لو چند نظری ایمه بی لسر اتفاقیه لسر علاقات دقوقی هر وقت پیویز بو منش گویم لو چند نظری آوان بی لهندشت متفق بوين لهندشت متفق نبوين ومش تكي طبيعي.
Of course, my visit to Iran comes within the context of neighborly relations. Iran is a neighbor. It was necessary for Iran to hear our point of view. We've discussed the issues regarding the agreement, the SOFA agreement, and also bilateral relations between Iraq and Iran and the KRG and Iran. And also important for me to hear their point of view. On certain matters we agreed, and on other matters we disagreed, and this is normal.
Question.
Hassan Barai from Nebraska University. Mr. President, would you share with us your view about Iran, whether you see it as a threat or not, because the Sunni in Iraq see Iran as a threat because Iran has been playing a negative role in Baghdad. And you as a Kurdish, but at the same time you're Sunni, do you share with the rest of the Sunni in Iraq that Iran is a threat or not? Thank you.
اما هرکه اول ملانیه بین شیعه و سنه سری هلدا اما حول ماندا و بردوامیش بین اما نبینه طرف لواج که اما خلق کردستان اصلا بروامان بوانی با صراع مذهبی بین شیعه و سنه اما لهر دو کیان نزیکین وکویه و حولش ماندا نزیکیان کینه و میان و حتی وساطت کین لنوانیان دا یارمتیان دین بواوی برای شرعی که قلتر و خویناوی تر نچن بلام ممكن زور دولة هبن بيانا بمشاكل لنا العراق درسوا مفروض الشيعة والسنة وهمو خلق العراق رجعنا دم بو دولتنا دز دريش كنا نولتك.
When the Shia-Sunni sectarian violence started in Iraq, we have tried, and we will continue to try, not to take sides and in order to bring the two sides together, because we did not believe, and we do not believe in sectarian violence between the Shias and Sunnis, and we tried to bring them together, closer, and we played a mediatory role, and we assisted them so that that violence will not go deeper and will not be more bloody. Probably there will be other countries who want to create problems inside Iraq, but it has to be the Iraqi people, the Shia, Sunnis, and the Kurds to work together so that they would not allow other countries to interfere in Iraqi internal matters and stop such kind of interferences.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Zeynep Gürcanlı. I'm with Hürriyet. You said that your dialogue with the Turkish government is continuing, but still the attacks towards the Turkish targets by the terrorists also continuing. I want to ask a question, whether you are taking some unilateral measures to end these terrorist attacks in KRG region. Thank you.
اما هیچ کات ایلگال و نبوین او هرشانه بکرین اما هیچ کات ایلگال خوین رشتنین بلام هر وقت باسم کرد مادام درگاه گفتگو کراوه بین اما و ترکیه من او موضوع ابو صحافه نشمنه و هیچ تفاصیلک تا اما لگال دولت ترکیه اگین نتیجه.
We have never supported any attacks and we have never supported bloodshed. But as I said earlier, so long as we have open dialogue with the government of Turkey and that dialogue door is open, I would not want to go into details about this subject with the press.
Let me, as we near the appointed hour, Mr. President, you met with President Bush and you met with Secretary of State Condi Rice, I understand. In your meetings with President Bush, can you give us some sense as to the thematics and the exchange that might not have been, shall we say, reported in the press? And perhaps, did you talk about the 55,000 Kurds in the U.S. and those who are U.S. citizens, how they might vote on Tuesday?
Well, Kurdana leres وکوی و امریکی فیر بودن آزادن دائما که بدن.
The Kurdish citizens of the Kurds who are here and American citizens like yourself who have enjoyed the freedom and democracy, they are free like you to vote to whichever party they would like. I don't think they would be listening to us in voting issues. To my knowledge, they have also been divided into two camps, like yourselves.
Any particular issue with the President?
هاتنی من براستی با بوم سپاسی ملت امریکا بکن سپاسی سروک امریکا بکن با او یارمتی که دایان و ایمان روزگار کرد لرژیم دیکتاتوری طبعا لقال سروک بوش علاقه که شخصی خوشش درست بود باسی محوری اما مسئله اتفاقه که بو حقیقت بس من زیادتر با بو سپاسی بکنم چون که از آنم تا دومانگیتر تر أو شوينا بجد اللي يكتر ديت أو شوينا وهروها باسي علاقاتي آيندش في عراق وأمريكا وكرد أمريكا طبعا ما زانين علاقاتي ما لشورشوي عراق دايا وما زانين ما لشورشوي عراق داين والله مرور لكردش معلومة كزور كاريجر لا واسي عراق أم زيادة بابتي اتفاق كابو كباس من لكرا وبغينم پیدا که بردوام بین لسر جهودی خومان.
In fact, as I said earlier, that the main purpose for me for the visit was to come here to thank the people of the United States, the President of the United States for the assistance they provided and also for their support to liberate our people from dictatorial regime. And also in the last few years, a close personal relationship has been established between President Bush and myself. But the main issue that was discussed in the meeting was the issue of the status of forces agreement. And as we know that in a couple of months' time, there will be a change in the administration and President Bush leaves the office, but I wanted to come and thank him personally. We also have discussed the issue of bilateral relations between Iraq and the United States and also the role played by the Kurds. Of course, we do realize that our relationship with the United States comes within the framework and context of Iraq, the U.S. relationship, but the Kurds do play an effective role in Iraq, and we will support the agreement. And I also promised President Bush that we will continue our efforts in order to reach that agreement.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. Visiting you.
It was an adventure. It was a good thing you went on. The card was stuck in the machine. Yeah. Yeah.